10:59. We're live. Woo! Woo!
Okay.
Early, we're early. The show went early. Oh, every week now, the new year. It's up. Welcome to the GovCast. Coming to you live all across the country, South Florida, Texas. Welcome to mid-January as we start the new year. So blessed to have Donna Flagg with us today. Hope everybody's doing great. What's up, Michael? How are you?
What's up, Brother Jack?
How are things in South Florida? Everything well?
Oh, things are great. Got my sweater on today. I get to break it out 4 times a year. And so today's the day it got below 75, so I had to put my sweater on, but it's been great.
You're not getting any sympathy from the rest of us. So
Not looking for any. Pure joy. I love this weather.
I know. In South Florida, pure joy. Andrea, I can't be here today. As most of you know, she's getting married. And so out doing some wedding prep stuff. I think hair and makeup and make sure all that happens in tow. So Mike's here today. We're super blessed to have Donna Flagg here today. We're going to do a show a little different. As most of you know, we typically talk about sales or the government or what have you. But, with Martin Luther King Day this week, just wanted to kind of pause a little bit and kind of reflect on his legacy and what he's doing. And we're so blessed to have Donna Flagg here today. So instead of doing a long intro, Donna has a small window with us, short window to the bottom of the hour. And so wanted to just bring her into the show quickly. So love to welcome Donna Flagg into the show. Hey, Donna, how are you doing? Look,
I'm fine. How are you?
Lacey caught you off guard and brought you in early.
Yes, she did.
See, we're all on it. Every show this year has been a little. We're a little out. The holidays got us all off point. So thank you for agreeing to be on the show today. For our audience, we normally focus on folks in in the business world and their LinkedIn profile and what have you. And Donna certainly is on LinkedIn, and she works for Cross Country Home Services, and she'll tell you a little bit about her background. But really, that's not why Donna's on today. We really again wanted to kind of just spend a little time exploring and talking about Dr. Martin Luther King and tying that to some of the events that happened over the year or two and some of the there's definitely some similarities in those things. And so and Donna has a ministry outreach and some things she's doing to make our society and the people around her better. And so we'll dive into that, which would be amazing. And so, Donna, can you tell folks a little bit about yourself and your background? And
I was born here in South Florida, but my family roots are from the Bahamas.
Oh, cool.
Yes. I was born here and then went back to the Bahamas for about 4 years and came back here. And that's where I grew up in Miami.
Yes.
The inner city of Miami.
At the center of the universe.
Yes. And I married. I have 5 children, and I have my degree. And as a matter of fact, I'm working right now.
Oh, don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody across country.
Well, the company that I work for now, Cross Country, we changed the name 2 years ago. It's now Cinch Home Services, and that is what I work where I work, and that's what I do. I'm a support services specialist.
Yeah, so that's kind of Donna's work background, and then yes. I'd love for you to share. As 2 white guys. I assume the holiday, MLK's holiday, it just has obviously, I think, a much different meaning and than it would for someone like yourself and your community. And so I'd love for you to, before we kind of ask some specific questions. I know Mike mentioned he reached out to you Monday. You're like, hey, I'm actually on a holiday and doing my thing. And so I'd love for you to share, kind of your perspective on his legacy and the holiday and kind of how that feels to you in today's, in 2022.
Jack, I come from a very diverse background. My grandmother is white. She's from England.
Wow.
My grandfather is Black. He's from the Bahamas. And as you know, the Bahamas was ruled by Great Britain. We since gained our independence in 1976. But prior to that, my grandparents came to the United States in 1910. When they came here, they didn't know anything about color. They knew nothing about the N word. That was foreign to them. They knew nothing about that. In coming to the United States, my grandmother was a seamstress. She made wedding dresses and she traveled all over the United States. In their travels throughout the United States, they came across a lot of racism,
Mm.
a lot of racism. They would go to certain towns, and my grandmother would have to tell the innkeeper that my grandfather worked for her so that they would not put him out in the, at night. And he had somewhere to sleep, even though it was in a barn or whatever during the
Mm.
night.
Yeah.
In today's world, I really don't get it
Yeah.
because the way that I was brought up, color, it's just what it is, a color.
Yeah.
We're all God's children, all of us. And the way that the world is now, it's really sad.
Yeah.
It's really sad. In 1953, I want to say, my mother and my father was stationed at Fort Knox in Kentucky, in the Army base. And my mother, in their travels from South Florida to Kentucky, had to use the restroom. She got out of the car and she went into a gas station, and the attendant told her she couldn't use the restroom. And at that point, little did they know, they had called the police and they were escorted out of Tennessee
Mm.
and told not to ever return. Now, this was in 1953.
Yeah.
And then today, here we are, 2022. Even though it may not go to that extreme,
Yeah.
it's sad.
Yeah.
It's really sad. It really is, because we are all God's children. We're all God's children. What does the color of our skin have to, racism is a learned condition. If you put a black baby and a white baby together, they don't know.
Yeah.
It's learned. Hatred is learned.
Yeah.
It's not something that we're born with, and for me, at my age, I don't look at person by the color of their skin. As Dr. Martin Luther King said, I look at the content of their character.
Yeah.
How they are from in here, in their heart. I don't see what color has to do with anything, because putting it bluntly, we all go to the bathroom the same way. We all eat the same way. We pick up the fork with our hand and we put the food in our mouth. What is the problem? I don't get it.
There's I agree. I mean, there's so many ties. There's so many angles I want to just touch on today. One being obviously Martin Luther King's legacy. One being kind of the riots, in 2020, or kind of the protests, and tying that to the same issue, right? We're still struggling. And then in your first comment was really interesting to me. I love what is your personal opinion about? It seemed like for a while, and I'm 52, so much of it was about, hey, let's not look at someone's skin color, right? We want to be like on our merits or what have you. And it seems like now we've kind of almost come full circle. We're like, hey, I want either my ethnicity or my color to be noted or prominent or acknowledged, right? And so, do you feel that, or like, what is your sense of that presence?
I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I was having a discussion with my husband the other night, and he said, if you were back in the day, he said, you would have gotten treated different. And guess what? I have. I lived in North Carolina from 2000 until 2009, and I saw it. I was treated different because I'm a fair skinned Black girl. So I was treated differently. But why? Why? I don't get it. What is the reasoning behind it? Just recently in the news, we had 3 guys that now have to serve a lifetime in prison because they, why? Why? If he was a white guy, would they have done that? Why? I don't get it. And like I said again, hatred is a learned emotion. We don't come into the world hating each other. Why does what is the threat of the color of our skin? And to be perfectly honest with you, according to God, we have darker skin because in Africa it's hot and it's humid there, and the Europeans, it's colder there. So hence the different pigmentations of your skin.
Yeah.
But what does that have to do? Why? Where does the hatred come in at? I just don't get it. And then today, here we are in 2022. Really? And it's still going. It's still the things that Dr. Martin Luther King spoke about in 1963. We have not progressed at all. And it's up to us. You and me. It's up to us. Because today's youth, they know nothing. They know nothing. But for us who are older and who has seen the civil rights and what have you, why? It's just so easy to love each other and to be kind to one another. It's so easy.
It's interesting. I think you, Mike, and I, people of faith. I think one of the most interesting parts or challenges or conflicts in our faith is the portrayal of Jesus, right? You mentioned the Middle Eastern, and and so often in the Western culture painted as this ultra fair skinned man, and I think that's not accurate, right? If you look at where he's from and his background,
exactly,
it's one of the qualities, right? Even in our deep faith, and folks when they're forced to kind of explore that. The folks that are, do have some racial tendencies and start to fibrillate, right?
And people need to really investigate the Bible, because Simon of Cyrene, who helped Jesus pick up his cross, was a black man. I'm sorry, I just don't get it, because it's so easy to love one another. It's just so easy.
Yeah.
Where does the hatred come from? Why?
You said something, and when we were talking the other day about, you said I wasn't raised this way, right? I wasn't raised to see color.
No.
And I was
really?
raised to see color. I was raised to, and in hindsight, like it was so great when I went off to college, my world changed. Right. I was my own person, living in my own place, and I got to make my own decisions for the first time in my life. And I'm like, wait a minute, these folks are folks. Like, I realized right away, like, there's some white kids at this college I'm at I really don't like. There's some black kids I really want to hang out with them. Wow, there's some other. There's some kids that look like me that I don't like, and it just, my whole world just changed. And I literally, it's what's great about it, and I think we all need to realize, is that we all as individuals have a choice. And there's so many things that are generational that we need to catch, right? There's stuff that's coming down from the past that we can decide no more, right? And my bloodline and my family tree, no more. That branch is, I love my parents, loved them. You wouldn't, right? That they would not have made it possible for you to love them. It would have been really, really hard, because of the worldview that they had that came down from the generations and generations.
Exactly.
But in hindsight, I can see that they're blaming somebody. They're just looking to anything that was wrong in their life, instead of internalizing and go, okay, what can we do? How can I own this? It was, who could I blame? And then blame just went out. Exactly. And so I realized that it was for me to become not racist, I had to choose to just own responsibility for my life. Right. And so I wonder how that plays out to you, as far as, you've made just the things you said, you've made choices, right? And what do you think are some of the choices you've made that are different and make you stand out?
I choose to love everybody. I don't care what color you are. That's just me. I don't care. I'm going to hug you. I'm going to treat you just the same as I treat people of my color. In my house, I have to tell you, there's a standing joke here. If I do something that's not Blackish, I guess you could say, my husband will tell me, well, that's the European side of you that's coming out. What do you mean, the European side of me? But it's just a joke, because he's very friendly as well. I can't say it enough. We just need to learn to love one another. We have to. We have to. Because, and there's also another joke. What you gonna do when you get to heaven and you find out that Jesus is black?
Yeah. Well,
Because he's not white with blue eyes.
yeah. I think we've lost a lot of that. This politically correct culture. We, when we grew up, we could acknowledge some of the things that differentiated us with humor, right? And it was
Yes.
like, it's like, hey, that's a real thing. There's certain things about different cultures that are real, but we become so sensitive. You're like, you can't say that. You cannot say. And you're like,
But
hey,
but
our people, most of them don't have much rhythm. It's a
but
real thing. It's okay to say. It's
but
okay.
you know what I also learned, because I'm a friendly person and I talk to any and everybody. I mean, I don't see color. And I have Latin friends that even have told me, in Cuba, there's white Cubans and there's black Cubans, and they treat them differently. I was stunned.
Yeah.
I thought it only happened with white people and black people, but in different languages as well.
Well,
And I'm not like that. I love everybody. I don't care. I can be in the grocery store, little old white lady. I don't look at her color. I just look at her. She's a little old lady, and I hug her, and and what is missing? I don't know. I don't get it. What's missing in society today? I just don't. Why do people? Where's the hatred? Where's it coming from? Dr. Martin Luther King would not be pleased.
Yeah.
He would not be pleased. But we have not made any progress. We have not. Because, like I said, hatred is a learned behavior. We don't come here hating this person because he's black or hating this person because he's whatever. It's taught to us.
Yeah.
And
I think one of the things, Donna, is a lot of people will say, well, they're not taking care of their side of the street, so I'm not going to take care of mine. And I think you've made the decision. It sounds like, how have you chosen to take care of your side of the street, whether they do or not?
And I just love everybody. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I don't know. It's the only way I know. It's the only way I know, because that's how my mother raised us. During my young life, when I got married, I had a next door neighbor. It was white, had 2 kids, little boys, and they used to come over and play with my little girls. And one day, the mother decided she didn't want her children to play with my children anymore. How do you explain that to children? When my little girl asked me, she said, "Mommy, why doesn't I can't even remember his name now, come over to play anymore?" What do you tell your children? Because I didn't raise my children that way.
Yeah.
And this was back in 1970. Here we are 30 years later. Nothing's changed. I just don't get it.
It's interesting. You said when you have these conversations, you don't know what they're going to do. But I love what Mike said. You've made a conscious decision. I think that's part of it, right? Like being aware, because sometimes folks are wired based on their environment or their parents, and some of it's unknown until it hits you in the face. Donna, can you share your memories growing up when you were younger, the assassination? What
I know exactly where I was when that happened. My mother was combing my hair, and when it came on TV, and my dad came in the other bedroom and said they just killed Dr. Martin Luther King. At that time, I did not know who he was. All I knew is we were watching this big event on TV. I didn't know who he was, but as I got older, I found out who he was and what he was about. And it's so simple. Love one another. You look at a person and you judge them by the content of their character, not by the color of their skin.
Yeah.
What does the color of my skin have to do with anything? I don't know.
Well, he also, that speech is so beautiful. He also said there's work to do.
I cry.
He says there's work to do.
I cry when I hear it, and it's work to do. As a matter of fact, every year I say the same thing. He would be so, oh my God, devastated at what the youth are doing with all of the motorcycles and here in South Florida, and that is not, it's not the way to honor him. It's not the way. his vision and his foresight was way far than we could ever imagine. And this was back in 1963.
Yeah.
His foresight was more than and to see his granddaughter on TV on the other day, and she was saying, talking about legislation. It has a lot. It has to do with politics. It's a lot. It's a lot. It crosses the scope of all politics, religion. It just does.
Yeah.
And so my question is, when is it going to stop? When?
Well, I would say
when
it's coming to a boiling point, right? I would say I have another question for you, but in your comment, I would humbly say, I think there has been some progress. I think the fact that President Obama got elected and there's been some movement, but I really believe the powers to be, the embedded powers, and I mean by that the political parties and really the media are not incentivized to make it better, right?
No.
Good stories don't sell. You know what I mean?
And as far as the media is concerned, they just push stuff up to just create havoc.
But it's like,
ask me.
You only watch the Weather Channel when a hurricane's coming, or
exactly.
And when it's not, turn it off. And the media has figured out, hey, only when there's tension do we have people's attention. And so, you mentioned the murder that happened in Atlanta, or in Georgia, and it's the media, I think, picks those as well to find stories, because every day children are kidnapped, there's incidents, right? And the media throws gas on the ones they feel like will separate us, and it's sad. That part is really sad. And if people's only construct is through the media, they can develop a hatred, even if their family wasn't, you know what I mean? And so do you feel that? Do you feel the bias in the media? Do you feel
they push stuff up? They instigate stuff. They really do. They just instigate stuff. But again, for me, it's heartening. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It just really is. It's really hard. When I think back to 1963 up until now, we have not progressed at all. We have not progressed. The world is still in the same set of shoes that it was back in 1963. It's just played out a different way. There have been times.
I wonder as a mom with 5 children, I know they came home from school or came home from somewhere where they weren't treated well because of the color of their skin. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering how you as a mom, because I know you're a mama bear. I know that about you. And so I wonder, as a mama bear, like, how'd you help them navigate that?
I just told them that they don't know any better, that it was not directed towards them. And as a matter of fact, I have grandchildren now, and my granddaughter, she came home a couple of weeks ago, and she has white friends. Even when she was in, I guess you call it preschool, the teacher one day sent a note home to my daughter and wanting to know, why did she talk the way she did? What do you mean? What do you mean? Why did she talk the way she did? Because she talks proper. That's not proper. That's the way she was taught. Again, back to what's taught and learned.
Yeah.
You put two babies in a room, a black baby and a white baby, they don't know. They're going to be slobbing all over each other and kissing all over because they don't know.
Yeah, the 2 young babies running toward each other and hugging.
They don't know because they have not been exposed to this world yet. So my question is, when is it all going to stop? When? And probably never, because there are still wars that are going on in the biblical world. The Israelites and the whomevers, they're still arguing and fussing and fighting with each other. So when is this going to go away? Not ever.
Yeah.
Not ever.
Well, I think there's always going to be news to cover, right? The stuff that they can instigate and talk about. But I think what's really important, that I think the 3 of us are doing, we're trying really hard to do better than those that came before us. We're trying really hard to be better than who we were, like in the past.
Yes.
And I think that we need to pay attention to the people that are in front of us. Right?
Yes.
Don't tell me about my world. I shouldn't be. I think you're inspiring me to say, listen, open your eyes to the world that's around you and act accordingly in the world that you're in. Don't let somebody else tell you about your reality,
Oh, I
right?
guess I need to check in from lunch. Hold on a minute.
Uh-oh. Well, Jack, I think that having Donna on is just such a neat opportunity to get a background and a perspective that you and I don't have, from an experience that you and I don't share. But I think I'm inspired to be more aware and more sensitive to folks that are different than me on the outside. And I think I want to spend the rest of my life trying to figure out what's on the inside of all those folks.
Well, listen, I think if folks are really honest, we are, what's the right word? More sensitive and understanding of things that impact our life. And so I always say, whatever your thing is that you're not a fan of, let's just say, it could be a disease, or maybe you don't condone homosexuality, whatever it is, right? And then
New York Jets.
right, that touches your family, right? If your son or daughter or whoever, somebody you really love, says, "Oh, I happen to be gay," your perspective on a topic can change really quickly, because it's easy to hate or look down upon something that's far away from you. But when it's really close to your life, it's really close to what you're doing. It just affects you, right? I think that's the reality of it. And too many times, I think one of the things, Donna, when you're away, it's like, folks, stay in a silo. We, as a society, are going more siloed, right? We don't know our neighbors. We default to social media. We kind of isolate. Easy to dislike your neighbor, whether they're white, black, Indian, Asian American, whatever have you. And then a hurricane happens, and you need them to help you, or they rescue you, or then all of a sudden, when you have a relationship and you connect with them, something changes, right? And getting to know. And so I think that's one of the biggest variables, is to take down the walls and have folks, whether different races or nationalities, or even the same race and nationality, as Donna mentioned, can have issues. So it's about communicating and being vulnerable.
Yes.
You get to know your neighbor, right?
And I don't know, maybe it's the way that I was raised, but if I don't like a person, it's not because of their color. I don't like a person because of how they act.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with their color. What does color have to? I'm sorry. I'm glad that my mother raised me the way that she did, because as Mike knows, I love everybody. I hug and kiss on everybody. I don't care. It's just so easy to be kind to one another.
Yeah.
It's so easy, but the world is in a bad state of affairs. It's in a bad state of affairs.
Donna, can you share, especially for folks that are not African American, not brown skin, when you hear Dr. Martin Luther King, when you think about him, when you go through Monday's holiday, can you again? I just can't. I don't have that affinity, right? Can you share what that means to you? How it impacts you? How.
It's a proudness.
That's cool.
It makes me feel very proud to know his thoughts and what have you. And I have people in my family that knew him, and
Cool.
yes, my aunt posted something, as a matter of fact, yesterday on Facebook. He came into a hotel where she was the desk clerk, and he wanted something and it wasn't available, and my aunt went and got it, and the boss fired her right on the spot for leave for yes. And so she said she picked up her little things and she went home, but by the time she got home, Dr. Martin Luther King had called her on the phone with her boss and told her to get back to work. I have another friend who whenever he came to Florida, he visited them and what have you, but it's a proudness that I have for Dr. Martin Luther King. God bless him. His vision is not even for this time. He was way beyond his time back in 1963, but even more so now, because the youth of today really don't know. They really don't know, and it's sad. It's really sad, but it's a proudness that I have, and I'm glad that I was during that time and got to hear him, even though during the time that he was doing, with the marches and what have you, I didn't know about it. I was too little, but I eventually found out.
Yeah.
And it's just a proudness that I have for Dr. Martin Luther King. And I think that, the things that transpire on the days when we celebrate him, it's heartbreaking, because they're not representing the Dr. Martin Luther King that I know.
Yeah.
Riding on motorcycles and this and that, and disobeying the police. And that's not it.
For those that don't know, in South Florida, the motorcycle gangs will ride around town and
Yeah, it's crazy. It's and somebody made a comment last year. I'll never forget it. And as they were arresting people with the bikes and the motorcycles and what have you, and somebody said they even got white folks in there, and I'm like, okay, so the white folks are riding on the bicycles and stuff too, so they shouldn't be, It was like it was saying as if, well, the white folks don't need to be in there. This is for black people only. Bikes up, hands up, or whatever they do. Okay, no, it's not. They're all riding for the wrong reasons.
Yeah,
Donna, they're all riding.
I know you got to leave soon.
Like a minute ago.
Yeah, can you tell folks about your personal ministry and your house every day? And
my personal ministry started back in the year 2000. I had moved to North Carolina, and I just wanted to get away from people and places and just memories and what have you. And so I did a prayer one morning, and I put it in my phone. I was new to cell phones too. So I put it in my phone, and I took it to work, and I showed it to someone. And that someone said, "Ooh, can you send that to me?" And I did. And the next day she was looking for another one. And I said, "No." She said, "But I did pray every morning." And so I started out with 2 or 3 people. And now, as a result of that, 22 years later, I send prayers to 90 people every morning.
awesome.
And God has brought people to me through some of the most strangest ways.
Every morning, right?
Some of the people on some of the people on that list I've never met. Some of them are white, some of them are Spanish, some of them, they have all different nationalities and what have you that God has sent to me.
Yeah.
And I send them prayer every morning, to the point where if I'm off, like I was the other day, they're texting me like, "Miss Donna, are you okay?"
I know somebody that did that.
I'm just off and I'm just sleeping in this morning. Can I sleep in a little bit, please? And so yeah, I send prayer every morning, because you know what, the word of God is it's powerful. It's powerful, and you've got to live your life that way. You've got to live in obedience to God. You just have got to, because at the end of the day, that's all that you have left is God. That's all that you have.
Donna, I can't tell you how many times I received that prayer, and it was the prayer I needed in the moment.
I get that.
And you know what? So many times when I don't, like I got Miss Donna's prayers.
People text me and they say, "Oh, Miss Donna, I needed that this morning." It's not me. It's God, because God knows what you need. I'm just a messenger. I'm just a messenger. To God be all the glory.
Yes.
All the glory to God.
We will let you go. Look, thank you so much for carving out some time in your day. Appreciate it so much and helping us.
You are so very welcome.
Just a little bit,
And I just want to say to both of you, Mike knows, God bless you. God bless you. And like my mother used to say, just love one another and be kind to one another.
Yes.
That's all. God bless.
Love you, Donna.
I'm going to connect with you. You're going to add me. I'll be 91. You'll add me to your list.
Okay. God bless you.
God bless. Stay safe.
Okay. Have a good day. I'm going back to work.
Appreciate
you.
Donna.
Okay. Bye.
Yeah. And, in full disclosure, just being super honest, I thought about this week's, we had another topic, and I was like, it just didn't feel right. And so, we were kind of like calling out to our, folks that we feel like are connected, obviously as 2, white guys, and then Andrea wasn't here today. And, I think she has a, Central America background. Just wanted to find some, somebody that was networked and has a great story. And Donna didn't get to half of her story. And she outreaches to a lot of folks and somebody making the community better. And, Mike, her thing of, I think it's a conscious choice, right? To decide, because it's easy to fall into some of the hatred that the media feeds us constantly, and the negative. Folks can be prone to think negative about their neighbor, but the things you went through, and obviously the George Floyd incident, and all that created, and kind of a reawakening of what's happening in race relations here in America, and then the Ahmaud Arbery, I think is how you pronounce his name probably. Hope I'm getting that right. That incident that you'd mentioned in Georgia, where there's 3 guys who was jogging, and I think they were obviously just sentenced, and so they seem so senseless, to folks that are grounded and well-rounded. You're like, what she said, how you hate somebody because of the color of their skin is such a stupid, dumb concept. It's ridiculous, right?
And evil has marketing behind it. I mean, I think back to my youth and some of the things that used to come into our house, and it was some kind of, I mean, I don't know where it came from, but it was propaganda and media that came from, it didn't come from the grocery store, like there are things behind the scenes that we may or may not be aware of, but we need to realize that there are people trying to benefit, gain, or protect. They feel like they're protecting themselves at the expense of other people. And it's not necessary, right? That it's that sort of like a scarcity mentality. Like if I help you, if you get ahead, then I get behind. Like that's not true. We can all benefit. We can all, that I love the picture where when the tide rises, all boats rise. Mm-hmm. And I remember who I heard that from. I remember where I was. And that was such an important thought for me, because I was a competitive salesperson that was, for me, I got to be number one in the team, and I've got to win. And if you lose, I win. And there were people in my team that not my team that I worked with, that literally used to get other people to go to breakfast. And so once he got them to breakfast, they'd leave and go make extra sales calls. And it was all an attempt to, we can't all win together. And I just saw that, and I just felt in my bones like, no, we can all win together. Yeah. And if we, in an environment where everybody's trying to be the best they can be, but at the same time helping the person next to them, regardless of where they're from or what they look like let's just all get better. The world around, like Donna said it, the world around us will get better. Yeah.
And I would think, my last thought on this topic is again, Anglo-Saxon, white, male, 52, I am not the ideal commenter or the person to speak on Dr. Martin Luther King's legacy. But I would just say, on my side of the fence or my side of the street, it's like trying to find the right way for folks to be honest and real about what's happening, right? Because I think the political environment and the media will paint folks in a certain way, and you can't joke about this, and you can't say that, and everyone has to be very politically correct. And I just think that's not real. I think honestly, we're all, if a group of a certain nationality gets together, they have an interaction and they say certain things, it's fine. Whether that's whoever, Black, white, Italian, Asian American, you name it, right? It's real. And so the ability for us to be more real with each other and say, hey, I don't really relate to this sentiment. I really relate to this, and trying to then share information and get to know each other. Because again, I always say, people, when you get to know somebody, most people are hard to hate, right? We hate things we don't know. That's the way it works. Here's an analogy I always say to people. I believe this wholeheartedly. Half the people won't agree with this. Whether you liked President Obama or not, or whether you liked President Trump or not, right? For whatever side of the fence you're on, just two, obviously, folks in the recent political scheme. No matter what your opinion of them, for most people, if they walked into your office, if they walked into your home, if they walked into your development, most people, you'd go meet them. You would engage with them. And I think that interaction has the potentially to change your opinion to that person. Because as a face, as a thing, as something that's presented to you, you don't know, then when you're standing 6 inches from them, a foot from them, talking to them, seeing them, hearing them, you gauge their sincerity. Maybe you leave feeling the same way. I'm not saying you change your opinion 180, but it's definitely different, right? It's like, oh, hey, President Obama, President Trump, whoever, President Biden's at the door. You'd be like, whoa, that's cool. You know what I mean? And Donna mentioned one of her relatives, was met Dr. Martin Luther King. And I think it's really important for folks to remember he wasn't popular when it was going down. Like, it wasn't like we, after the fact, right? What, in 1997, he got the Congressional Medal of Freedom. President Reagan, what year? I think in 86, made the federal holiday. It's after the fact, folks look back and go, oh, hero. Amazing. But in the time, not so much, right? Really, really very, there was a lot of consternation around his ministry, his positions, his speeches. And so folks kind of forget. It's only, many years later, we're like, ooh, amazing. I bet you when he's around, things would be great. Well, maybe not. I think if he was walking around, there'd be a lot of tension, right? If he was like, oh, I'm stirring the pot. What's that mean? And so I think sometimes it takes great fortitude to send out a message maybe that's a little counterculture. And the great things, as we've seen from his amazing legacy so many years later, right, almost 60 years later, still so prominent, where we stop and, we're talking about him. What a great legacy that people are talking about you 60 years later. Truly amazing. So.
One thing that honestly I'm going to change in my life is that I'm not going to say anymore that MLK Day, right? We refer to it as MLK Day, but the birthday we celebrate of Martin Luther King Jr. He's a pastor, he's a doctor, and he changed the way our country operates and thinks.
Yeah.
And he organized other people to do. He wasn't the only one. He was a great organizer of great minds to make change happen. This isn't their holiday.
Yeah.
This is our holiday.
Yeah.
And the more that we embrace it as our holiday, the closer we get to the change he inspired us to.
I would, appreciate everyone's time today. Hopefully we move the needle a little. I think what Donna said, about consciously being aware of our mindset. And I think if we're super honest, all of us have a certain, hidden feelings or certain things that are in our closet. We're like, man, that's not the prettiest part of my personality. And being able to kind of unpack those and deal with them and confront those and process them is probably the best way for us to move the needle, as we just went through 2 years, both with, again, the protest and then the COVID. And, I think it is one of the things most top of mind, I think, for this administration and for us as a country. And hopefully we are able to move the needle, continue to move the needle forward. So any last thoughts, Mike, you want to add?
I just love that Donna said this is learned behavior.
Yeah.
And we can choose to learn different. We can unlearn it, right? We can choose differently. And I think she was such an inspiration for us all to not consider that, but to act on that.
Yeah. And normally we yell and scream on the way out, but that just doesn't seem appropriate today. So just want to wish everybody the very best. God bless. Welcome to, hope your 2022 is going amazing. Hope you've set your goals, written them down, posted them somewhere in your living environment. And we will be back to you next week, same time, same bat channel. Wish you all the very best. God bless. And hopefully today, we feel like maybe we help move the ball forward. See you next week. God bless.
God bless.